As a guitar player, you don't need tabs or YouTube tutorials to be able to learn songs. You can do it 100% by ear, and you do not need a remarkable ear to do this. Some of the methods that I'm going to show you how I do this really don't have anything to do with your ear at all. So it's that much more doable if you have a quote-unquote bad ear. So today I'm going to be learning a popular song with nothing but my ear. I'll show you how I do it, after which we'll compare it with tabs from across the internet. Some might be very wrong, some might be completely right. Regardless, you'll learn how to better navigate this so you know what you're playing is actually correct. So the song I'm going to be using is Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I'm just going to play it. I'm going to show you the process that I use to figure it out, and then afterwards we'll see what's out there in terms of tabs. So the first thing I want to note is I'm listening for bass notes mainly, hits on the one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's where I'm looking for the bass hits specifically, as those will most likely give me the root chord or the root notes of the chord that's being played. There is some variance with that, but most of the time it won't lead you astray. And I'm going to break down some other tools that I use along the way to be able to figure this out. I also keep in mind how many chords I'm hearing in the chord progression. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? That helps me, as you'll see later with chord progression recognition, do this faster. So I'm going to click play. I'm going to be listening for bass notes right away. I'll show you with my diagram what I'm seeing in my head visually so you can learn to emulate this, and we'll jump right in. So here we go.
Sitting in the morning sun.
So I've got boom, boom. Those are the two I hear so far. So I think it's G. Goes up. I think to B. So let's plot those, and then let's keep listening. Remember, B can go here, can also go here. For right now, I'll just put it right here, but just be aware of where they can exist.
I'll be sitting.
Boom. Just went, it was right there. Boom.
Evening come.
Boom, 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 boom. It does that little chromatic descending. So. And I think that's it. So we land in A. So we got C, which you can put right here. Or remember, you could put it over here. And then we end up on A, which again, you could put it here or you could put it here. Now, first things first, if these are the 4 bass notes we're rocking with, I think it's only 4 bass notes. Let's actually listen back and test.
Watching the ships roll in, then I watch them roll away again.
Yeah, at least for this part. Okay, so the first point I want to make is I use this thing called the key box. I'm not going to go into too much depth. I'll link a full video on how I use it down below. It is extremely useful for learning songs by ear. I would highly recommend getting familiar with it if you want to get better at this. But essentially, it tells you any key anywhere. It's completely slidable along the neck. So the reason is I always try to put it in a box shape to the best of my abilities. What do I mean by that? Remember how I was saying B could be here or here. C could be here or here. I just want to put it in this box format so that when I use this box visually in my mind, I'm seeing it on my guitar, I can then, note, okay, it doesn't fit in the key of F sharp, clearly. It's not going to fit in the key of G sharp. A it could be, but you know that a 7 is right here. There's a half step between 7 and 1 and 3 and 4. Definitely lock that in your brain if you don't already feel good about that. Little things like that to cross out what keys it cannot be if we're following the rules, and what keys it could be. For example, I'm looking at the key of G. That very clearly fits. We could look at the key of F, but again, if we feel good about our half steps, again, 2 ways to approach this. If we feel good about our half steps, we can know that this note right here is B. So it goes here, and we can see that it doesn't fit in the key of F. Or, as we talked about before, we know that there's a half step between 3 and 4. So the 4 goes right there. Remember, it's right here, which means the 5 is a whole step away from there. In other words, right here. In other words, that's not falling in the key. So that's a little quick, brief note on how I use that. As another quick side note, the power of half steps is huge. Intervals in general can give you so much information with just two notes. So I know that this B to C is right here. These 2 notes are a dead giveaway that we're most likely in the key of G instantly. It could be 7 and 1, as you see right here. However, 3 and 4 are much, much more common just in music in general. So I would feel good about just those 2 notes, that it would most likely be a 3 and 4, like so. And then again, if you know that the 4 is directly below the 1, or if you just visually take the shape and see it and move it around your guitar, you would see like this. All that to say that we have all the bass notes, and we now know, without even playing, all the chords, major or minor. Now, there could be some rules being broken, and I think that's what I hear, but assuming there's no rules being broken, it would sound something like, I'll move this here. assuming there's no rules being broken, it would go 1 minor 3, 4 to a minor 2. So that would look like to a minor. And remember, there was that little walk down. If you're a guitarist looking to get better at this, I have a 100% free course and community. I'll link it in the description as well as my bio. Like I said, it is a course A to Z, the exact method I use and have taught other people to be able to do this, as well as a community with other guitar players like you trying to get better at the exact skill, learning songs by ear. So if you're a guitar player and you want to check this out, I'll link it down below. It'll be in my bio. Like I said, it's literally free. If not, enjoy the rest of the video. The next thing I want to talk about is common places to break the rules. Most commonly, you're going to see it between 3 and 4, as in a 3 gets turned major and a 4 gets turned minor. It can happen other places, absolutely, but those happen quite a lot. So when I play what we just played back with the song and test it, you'll notice, so
watching the ships roll in, then I watch them roll away again.
Hopefully you could hear that 2 of those notes didn't sound like 2 of those chords rather weren't sitting very good. That would be the second one. That didn't flow very well. And then the 4th chord, our A minor. Our A minor being our 2 and our 2nd chord being our B, which is supposed to be B minor. Both of those minors didn't really sit. And again, as I said, 3 is a very common place to break the rules. So what I would go back and do is just flip those and test it with the song. Play them both major and see. So we listen. So
watching the ships rolling,
major, much better. Major again. So again, I would suspect that we are slightly breaking the rules, and the way that we would simply know that we're breaking the rules is this is our normal box. We have now determined that this note right here is supposed to be minor, but it's sounding major, so that would be a major 3. And that we also heard that this last note, our A, doesn't sound good with a minor, and it would be a major 2 like this right here. So that would give us a chord progression of all majors. So just to summarize, we got the bass notes, we paired it with this box shape right here. It was able to tell us the potential key, and then we just leveraged some knowledge on some common ways to break the rules, and we knew that we could flip major and minor chords, and we would get Now, the last thing I want to talk about very, very briefly is the use of 7ths. So if you don't feel good about your major and minor 7ths, quick chart to memorize. If we're following the rules, the 1 and 4 can have a major 7th, and all minor chords 2, 3, 6, as well as a 5 can have a minor 7th, often referred to as a dominant 7. So if all of these notes, the 2, the 3, and the 6 and the 5, can all have minor 7ths, that would mean that we could throw minor 7ths on this chord, the 3, and this chord, the 2, and they would still perfectly fit in the key, even though it's now a major chord. If that doesn't sit well with you, you can find plenty of videos explaining dominant 7ths and minor 7ths to kind of clear up that confusion. But all you should know is it's an easy grab because the minor 7th already fits in the key, and even though we're changing the chord, we can add 7ths. And it still fits in the key, but adds a little bit of extra tension, so to speak. So if you wanted to add those 7ths, you would look at that's what you would have. So that being said, again, the chord progression is a 1, 3, but it is major, right? 1, 3, 4, and then 2. And remember, again, our 2 is major. So again, this would be in the key of G. At least this version is the key of G. So just know we'd have G, B, C, and then A. And then, of course, don't forget the use of dominant 7ths, as I write it right here, and how they fit and where you can place them. Notably, you can use this chart right here. You can memorize them however you want, but for our purposes, we know we can add minor 7th on all these right here, 2 and 3 being the ones in our progression. So we know if we wanted to add it, we could add one here and add one here, and we'd be looking at a And you could also throw a major 7th on both the 1 and the 4. You don't have to do this, but of course we know it follows the rules. And if you're looking for that kind of flair, so to speak, you could totally do it. So I threw 7ths on everything there. So that's just a little comparison so you can see what both options sound like. So I have some tab sites pulled up so we can see what is out there in the wild. This is a very popular song, so it should be very good. The lesser popular or more niche songs you find, that's the ones where you can really run into this variance and you really start to run into very conflicting tabs. But for this one, it probably should be good. So we'll see this one has, we only did, I believe, up to right here, roughly. This one has, G to B, C, a little walk that we talked about down to A. So everything's right, major and minor. There is the addition of 7ths. Again, if you want to add it, you absolutely can. I just think it adds a nice flair. But you do you. So that one looks pretty good to me. Let's browse a couple more. So this one also looks good, except I see a C7 there. That's very aggressive. I'm not really too sure about the C7 there. Just note the difference between a C7 and a major 7. Remember, we talked about how a major 7 would fit on the 1 and the 4. Remember our little chart right here, 1 and 4 major 7. A dominant 7 would go out of the key, so that's really aggressive. It's totally possible, but right there it doesn't seem like a good fit. So that's why I want to show the duality of this. When you're trying to learn songs and you're looking stuff up online, you can bump into these conflicting viewpoints, and it's very important to know which one sounds more true by using your ear, but also knowing fundamentally based off of basic music theory stuff which seems more probable. There's other ways to do this too, but this is kind of like dipping your toes into spotting some things that don't make sense. And I found this other random site and everything seems to be in order as well. Like I said, with these very popular songs, you usually should be good to go. But as you start to go into lesser known artists or lesser known songs by popular artists, you can start to bump into these conflicting issues. So that is it for this one. I just wanted to run through a song, show you a little bit how I use songs by ear and some of the things that I use that don't necessarily require a super good ear, like this box right here, like intervals. I didn't really touch on how I use major and minor 7ths, but I leverage that as well to be able to learn songs by ear. And I also just wanted to see what's out there in the world, because so many times I bump into tabs that are shockingly wrong. It's quite insane. And I think it's very important to be able to rely on your ear and a basic method, some basic music theory, to be able to discern what is correct, what is incorrect, and what just sounds best. I have other videos of me going more in depth learning songs, speed running learning songs. If you want to see the method more in action, because like I said, there is a lot more depth to it, especially when rules start to get broken and stuff like that, I would highly recommend checking a video I did on this box right here and showing you how I use it to the fullest to be able to learn songs by ear as fast and efficiently as possible. I will link it somewhere around here, as well as a video where I talk about more interval relationships and how I use intervals specifically to be better at learning songs by ear. That's it for this one. Have a great one.